Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Today we're all the way in Africa. Some people call it the motherland. And let me tell you why we're there. We're going to go into another beautiful story, another beautiful journey of that beast mindset. Let me tell you about today's show and this beautiful young lady that we're looking at who's getting ready to have a birthday next month. So happy early birthday. But her story is one that's definitely taken social media by storm. And the reason for that is simply this. Imagine going through different stages of depression at a young age. Imagine the fear of being alone with this on your plate as well. Trying to navigate life at such a young age. And basically, let's get real, trying to not get involved with the system to where when you mention things like depression and so forth, we're quick, not even, and it's funny because we're talking Africa, quick to put you on medication. And this young lady refused to do all of that and decided to take that beast mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to be open about what I do. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make a difference in myself and start changing the mindsets of not only myself, meaning her, but the world. Let's welcome to the show. I'm going to call her Vivi because her last name is truly beautiful and I don't want to mess that last name up. So let's welcome to the show, Miss Dominique Vivi. Dominique, what's up, baby girl?
How are you doing?
I am doing fine. So pronounce your last name. Is it Dominique Van Reering?
Well, it's actually very Afrikaans. So it's basically Van Vuuren. So it's Dominique Van Vuuren, yeah.
Now you said that's very Africana. So what does that mean? That's actually an Africana name?
Well, the first name basically is a Latin origin, meaning basically the meaning is belonging to God. So yeah, that's basically the first part. Like the back end, I'm not so quite sure. I know it's in the back then with all the people and all the wars and stuff that they were. So I'm not quite sure. I haven't really done much research on my last name.
I didn't want to mess it up. I know it has some key significance to Africana roots. So you were born and raised in Africa, correct? Your family's from there. You was born and raised there, right? What's that
That's
like?
100%.
What's that like? What is that like?
It's quite interesting. It's very different compared to the rest of the world. I think if you don't know much when you're young. You get taught by what your parents teach you, and when you grow older, you actually understand what the world is actually about and what the different countries, cultures, and behaviors and politics and everything actually differs from each other. So for
Mm.
me, South Africa is not a bad place, but I would say traveling and actually, moving a bit in terms of countries would be something I would consider based on safety, economic changes, politics, just everything. So it's a very interesting life.
You are very young and you definitely are traveling, doing remarkable things. My hat's off to you. Um, when you say you travel to different countries, like when you're raised in let's say in Africa, because that's where you're at, how do you guys view other countries? Let's use America for instance. Like America is a global economic powerhouse to other countries. Like when you was growing up, what was the mindset with Americans as opposed to Africana?
Well, I would say it's very different because like you get raised in a different culture, so your thinking and doing would not necessarily be the same. I think when it comes to your culture, if I say culture, I'm talking about like your Christianity or whatever you basically believe in on that side where you kind of are. So for me, it's a little bit different. Just to rephrase actually on the question what you're asking, in the mind state, I think we all, grow up in a setup that the way of viewing life differs from each other. How you grow up in your house, and when you grow older, and what you believed in, and how you would interpret, those kind of changes. So it's a very interesting question, actually. Sorry, I'm just trying to think how I'm gonna put it. Um, Growing up this side to compare mentally, I think we have it easier in a way because we don't have that very strict rules. I think this is very, very like you can do anything you want, really, kind of like there's no kind of super set rules that you would have in America that I've noticed how they would live their life and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think.
What do you mean when you say like the rules? Like you mentioned rules that like where you at and where we're at in America. So what do you mean when you say rules? Like what rules do we have here versus things that you guys don't have there?
Well, I would say in terms of what I can just like based on my opinion, in terms of like how life would be in terms of safety, what Trump actually implied on what he approves or not approve in terms of all the kind of like different things. I don't want to dig in too deep and say something that's not convenient, but like being, you know, transgender or something like that, like there would be less okay, which is a good thing. And then on this side, like nobody really cares. It's not something people really talk about, but we will definitely kind of, if you feel strong in terms of your beliefs, then you would kind of like not mix with those kind of people. So those kind of rules that have been different, and it's just the way I think about it. Those kind of things.
How was your life growing up? W- because we don't in the states we don't really they don't really magnify other countries. Like we're not gonna know too much about Africa, the Congo, and all that. It's just never gonna pop up on our U.S. Media coverage unless something catastrophic happens over there. But what I do hear from some guests that have been on my show that used to live in the African region, they said that safety is like a real major concern there. Like people can just come in your house, kidnap you, hold you for ransom. And, I heard some crazy stories in the last 4 years on my podcast from people that, went over there as missionaries and stuff. Have you seen any of this kind of stuff? Or is it you live in a different type of environment there?
Well, to be honest with you, I think safety is currently a very big thing. I mean, I carry like a pouch, those back in the 80s kind of pouches. I don't do handbags because it doesn't feel safe. Like literally, it's kind of crazy, but I have like a knife with me and sometimes pepper spray because you never know what kind of situation you're in. You never can leave your house really without checking that everything is locked and everything you keep with you is like kind of safe. So it's more than just breaking into your house. They would literally kill you on the spot. They can torture
What?
you, kill you just right after it. That's just literally how it is, unfortunately.
Wait a minute. They would just kill you on the spot and butcher and all that kind of stuff. And
That's what we have, yeah. So I don't really go out at night. It's based on safety. If I do, I have to be like with a group of people. That's basically how the setup needs to be for a woman, especially to be safe.
you being a beautiful woman, how difficult is it for you to navigate in situations like that and stay safe? Because when you look at you on social media and your message and what you're doing, you know, it seems like you don't have to worry about anything, but you're saying that's not true. Your beauty can be a curse if the wrong person or the wrong situation pops up.
No, for sure. It's a blessing and a curse. The blessing is it opens up a lot of doors. and motivates people to look into different avenues of actually growing. But the negative side is unfortunately dealing with a lot of men that's contacting a person and making it hard for you to actually meet, you know, better people that would have the right intentions. And also, yeah, safety does play a role. But I think if you kind of like set your mind up on, being streetwise, I think it makes it a bit easier. And you know what the rules are in terms of having yourself safe in the environment you are with all the right tools.
You said you grew up independent at a young age. Explain that to me. What does that mean? You grew up because first of all, let me go back a little bit. What's your family like? I mean, do you come from a close knit family? Mom, dad, brothers, sisters?
Well, to be honest with you, to I grew up with my aunts and my uncle for some time of my period of my life. My mom wasn't really that present. She just couldn't. She looked after me at some stage, but eventually she met the dad that I'm currently like it's my rock at this stage of my life. So I'm like super blessed with having him. And along came a brother, which I'm literally is a bit like 5 years younger than me. I love him so much. So like my family is literally those two men are the example of actually meeting someone to look after. So for me, it's basically my family is a great setup, and because it was difficult for me when I got a lot of problems when I was younger, going through school, struggling with teachers and getting work done, and actually feeling that I fit in and was feeling smart. I never felt that I would get this far. So I kind of like said when I met God, I tried to imply on how to grow within my Christianity and kind of building. So I literally, I think it was 2021, it was 2022, I think it's around there when I started saying, okay, now I need to kind of start growing and actually change my life, which was where I bought myself a car and moved into my own property and got a sustainable job. And I felt like that was so empowering for me. Like, why could anybody else not have it? And that is where I started the journey, become a lifestyle influencer, which made me like say that even though you don't have all these big qualifications, you don't really need it to be successful.
You said your mom wasn't involved. Do you so you know your biological mom, correct?
No, no, definitely. She just wasn't very much part where she was in her life back then, but she was more part of my life a little bit later with time. And then from there on, I just kind of like grew out of it where I just made myself grow up and not needing to have everybody on your side necessarily.
When you was trying to go through this transformation at such a young age, you said you dealt with depression along that path. How did you deal with that? Who did you confide in? Like what was your what strategies did you put in place to not be medicated? How did you put together a plan for success to avoid medication and to get out of the depression that you was going through at a young age?
Oh, it was a difficult stage, I always refer back to my faith in Christianity because like that's where it started. For one time I used the medication for about a few days. I didn't feel well after it. It made me feel very sick and I had heart palpitations and everything. And then there, I just decided like there's nothing wrong with me. It's basically how you apply your mindset to deal with certain situations and how can you like get through those kind of challenges. And what was the biggest part that stood out for me in that specific scenario is that when you kind of say no to something and you say, because it's a permanent mental thought that you have to have with yourself to kind of get through it. So it's a hard thing to do, but once you apply your mindset to pushing through it, you're gonna have days that you're gonna feel like you don't want to get up, you want to sleep, you want to just like it's really, really a tough mindset. But once you kind of like get through it, but I wouldn't say you'll get through it and then it never comes back again because you'll still go through it. It's just on how you decide on dealing with it. So for me, I still have it, but it's less effective now because I know how to deal with it at this kind of like stage where I'm in. And the moment you accept that you're going to have these kind of challenges in your life and it's going to put you through a terrible stage and you accept it, it kind of becomes a bit easier. But it's how you apply your mindset and breaking through those kind of like talking to yourself challenges, because it's basically what you think is what you're going to say, and it's how you're going to kind of like perceive and it attracts what you do at the end of the day. So I think that's basically, in short, I think every person is different. So I can't give you the exact recipe to life regarding depression, but I know that it is a tough thing, but as long as you accept it and you break through those kind of barriers, it's kind of a bit easier, but will never go away.
It's funny you mentioned your faith and you mentioned Christianity, but you live in Africa, where there's a whole bunch of different spiritualities. So what made you gravitate to the Christianity as your rock compared to the other forms of spiritual beliefs in a country that they say is the cradle of civilization and to some degree the cradle of spirituality in general? Because I know you've probably been exposed to all of that because they call that the cradle of civilization. Kind of.
Well, I think it's difficult to answer in a way for me because, like, my personal opinion might differ from a lot of people on how they approach this kind of like question. So I met I met, basically God. I met him basically when I was grade eight, which was a few years back. And from there on, I lived kind of like in the Bible way of how we're supposed to kind of like get people to come closer to God, kind of attract the right, say, energy and put out that kind of energy and get people to know about God because not everybody knows about God at the end of the day. And I know that there's people that feel that there's different beliefs. For me, I differ in some way because I feel like there's only one true creator. And I think everybody approaches that kind of like creator in a different way. But for me, I lived through that because I've actually had so many miracles and actual things happen. Like when I speak to him, I'll get goosebumps. So for me, it's real. And every time that I've prayed for something and I've wanted something, I've always achieved it. And also kind of much earlier than I've anticipated on the time. And sometimes I get bored with where I am because I don't know what's next for me. Because what am I going to challenge next for me to grow in a different kind of section? So I feel like being a person that's very philosophy kind of set up of mind, it's really a blessing to be able to know that there's a creator that has done all of this, and I can speak through all the stuff that I've done. It's always happened in the positive light.
My question is, what has been at least three of the things that have not has changed you, but what was at least three of the crippling factors that was a very difficult challenge for you to overcome? Because, like I said, you're still young, so you dealt with the situation with your mom, um, your parents. But what have been at least three of the most difficult challenges for you that you're still dealing with to this day?
Well, I think the one big thing is thinking that everybody is good. Unfortunately, that was one of the hardest things that hit me. My dad told me you're going to be very disappointed when you grow older that you don't know what people are, um, what they can do, and how they can actually, impact the person's life. So we think we know people. We think everybody has all the good intentions in the world, but it's not necessarily the case. It's where people feel like they need to use each other. And once I've grown into actually becoming a person that works for someone, the challenge for me was like, why would such a person be vindictive or rude or ugly or actually harm you in terms of like being jealous? Because I haven't had a lot of women in my life actually, which is crazy. That's one of my challenges. but I'll get to that one now. But generally, people are not that good in terms of their intentions always, because we kind of tend to want to use each other to get to the next level of life. So that was one of the shaking parts. And then the challenge was for me to actually be in a situation where I can work with women in generally, because it's been a challenge where people like women would be jealous, would be rude, would be someone to break you down. And I think once your mental state, because I always refer to the mental state, is that when you are satisfied with yourself, who you are, and what you have, and what you want to be, or where you want to be, it doesn't matter what people around you would do, because the way you grow and bloom is going to change people how they perceive the situation or look at you further on. And then another one. Oh, I think yeah. I think this one would be the most important one, is that what is the challenge was that you need to be confident and basically what's the word? Because I'm learning Afrikaans. Um, you need to be happy with you and where
Mm.
you are and what you have, and never put yourself in a place where you need to compare yourself with other people. Once you have accepted what you are, you kind of like you live on a different level of life. So that has been the most empowering thing for me, because the moment you accept who you are, you can literally impact other people's lives. So that was a challenge for me, because I always felt like I had to be, I had to have this, I had to have this, or I have to be this in order for me to be accepted or liked. But you don't have to approve other people's opinions about you. The moment you are okay with yourself, the rest will fall in place. So those were the three challenges I had in life, which I've actually overcome quite quicker than I thought.
I can't understand why you said you have the biggest difficulty dealing with other females that have animosity. Is this isolated to where you at in Africa, or is this global? Because you do a lot of traveling. So is this something that you see all the time? And then why are they jealous? Because you guys are all trying to do the same thing.
It's a good question, which I'm not quite sure. But I've actually recently joined a TV show. It's actually called Star Status. So for me in that specific scenario, I've dealt with like over 20 women. My challenge was to kind of like mix with them and see how I could make a different impact, kind of teach them something about me or being a woman, and then basically the same on the other side, like getting to know them and getting something from them that I might not know in terms of life.
Mhm.
And it's always a situation where people would behind your back, feel like, why are you looking better or having this? The kind of intention, but it's purely based on what I take out of this whole thing is that some people would do that to say that they need a step up on their side. So they would like to kind of step on you to feel better about themselves. So that's the kind of the only thing I could see in that specific scenario. But that doesn't make a person more beautiful. It actually makes you less beautiful, basically on stepping on someone else, making them feel less, to dim their light. So I feel like if you dim somebody else's lights, it's a problem with what you have or the insecurity that you have with yourself. So that's the thing I've tried to unravel a little bit on why would it be like that? Because I can't really say exactly, because I've been dealing with men most of the time, because it's better in terms of conversations, empowerment, because men are quite easy to work with. Men have like they're so like laid back about everything. If you have a problem, you chat about it and you move on. Like women they would hate you literally. So that's the type of challenges you have. But I think with the impact that I'm trying to make is I'm trying to kind of change that people's mindset on how we are supposed to carry ourselves and to know that you are enough. You don't need to dim somebody else's light to feel a bit more empowered or entitled or more worthy than someone else, because you are your own unique kind of person. That's how I would see it.
So I guess a lot of the females that you encounter have, let's just call it what it is, a lot of issues from low self-esteem to whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and is there an age difference that you see in this type of behavior?
I wouldn't say that age. I wouldn't say age plays a big role. The thing is, I'm literally 24. I mean, someone else can be younger or even older than me and have a kind of proper mature level. But then you get people that are 40, 50 years old and they would have a childlike mindset maybe or approach to a situation. Jealousy. I mean, in this age at this moment, the one thing that's been so challenging for me to see how people live is divorce is a thing. It's like it's for people it's okay, but for me it's not okay. So in this kind of setup, we are supposed to kind of like when we're kids be taught how to like when you get married you don't divorce, this is the way of living, the rules and the life and everything. But then your examples are the ones doing those kind of things, which we were supposed to be taught the opposite of doing it right. So I can't say that age can play a big role in this specific thing. I think it's basically on how people make choices in life and how it has a ripple effect on the rest of the world. I think that when
How
you
does
see
it
something, you do it.
how does this affect your growth trying to do what you do, which is an influencer, a model? I mean, you have so much stuff on that you're building on your resume. How does the actions of others affect your growth so you can stay on point, because you still got to deal with these people that everybody's not going to gravitate to your message, and you don't have time to sit there and preach, especially if you're going on a job and you're doing photo shoots or whatever. I mean, so how is this affecting you?
I would be honest, it doesn't affect me at all. Like I feel like I fit into the 1% of the world, simply because I don't live the kind of life that the regular 24-year-old would, or any person for that matter. For me, it doesn't affect me, not politically, not cultural wise, not Christian wise, not in any way, because it doesn't. I don't allow it. I think if you kind of like put your own rules in place, you decide on what kind of people you would like to attract, in terms of your aura and especially your works environment, the kind of people that you deal with. It's basically purely the choices that you make in life. So if you make good decisions, you'll have the best life you could ever imagine.
You mentioned the fact of dealing with trauma filled child behavior like individuals, mentioned the females that you come in contact with, you gravitate more to the men side. Do you do this because of the conflict or because their inability to understand what they're going through? And is this going to be a major crippling factor for you going, as you evolve and get older? Because you can't really change a whole lot of people, but you still got to deal with these people. So do you find yourself getting to the point that where you are um, excommunicating with more females and gravitating to more male? I mean, there has to be a balance between the two. So how do you do that?
Well, most of my, I would say, call it friends and people that I work with people much older than my age. I don't have friends or people that I mix with in terms of my age because it's based on the mental maturity that you deal with. So for me, I'm comfortable. I've friends that are like in their 40s and up. That's my kind of people that I am friends with and deal with. So for me, it's purely what kind of people you deal with. So for me, I'm comfortable with men and women. It's just definitely a different mindset that men and women have, in terms of conversations. I think we as women are quite emotional, so that makes anything that we approach or do kind of a little bit less. Um, I don't know what's the word. For me, it's easy to speak to men in terms of different contexts, or say topics, because there's always something to talk about, and it's interesting and it's exciting because I'm a very adrenaline kind of person. But then with women, women would like to speak about nails and hair, and that guy cheated on this one, and that you hear about that girl. So the intellectual part, I think that's the missing part in some men and women's side, because I can't really say just women. I say it would be that kind of setup where um, the intellectual part is very important. It doesn't stimulate the person's brain, but that depends on where you are in life. I'm
Mhm.
so open to growth and learning new things and applying that to my life. It gets me so excited. I love people. People are my thing. And obviously, it's good to know men and women on both sides. So I can't really say men or women rather. I think that's just the major part, getting that intellectual conversations with men and women, and kind of like being open to grow and enjoying conversations, because nobody can take that away from you when you actually learn something new. That is something that will always stick with you.
What is your message that you're trying to empower through your social media? Because you are doing a lot of things, and like you said, your mindset, your growth potential. But let's get real. So this is a two-part question. How has social media affected what you're going through? And number two, what are you trying to deliver through your through your social media to the individuals to let them understand what you actually want to do?
So to start, social media was kind of my lifesaver from where I was in my past, because I felt like nobody. I literally was so down the drain. It was terrible. Where social media brought me into the world where I am today and showed me how to kind of like not for, you have to be more raw in your social media than, because we look at social media and that's basically most of our time. If you go check your phone time, you'll see how long you actually spend your time on the phone, and I'm actually guilty of one of them. So for me, it was basically social media, building my name and working with different companies. Um, it kind of gave me an identity on who I am today. And that has put me through, it got me through depression. It got me through other people. Because when I started competing on the stage, people started noticing me and saying, wow, and well done, and everything. And then I realized, like, well, I'm someone. I've gotten my identity. Now I know who I am and what I'm supposed to do to influence the rest of the world. But then when you're off camera and you're not posting anything, you get days that you feel like so crushed in your soul. It's I can't even explain it in words, that I can't even go on my phone and look at social media, because most of the stuff is so fake that it's a pretentious kind of way of looking at it. But then I decided to change it and say, there's a photo I posted back, like I think in last year, when I was actually crying and I felt so crushed. And then having those mental talk, looking in the mirror and saying, look, you are enough. You can literally do anything, but you have to actually do it. Like literally last week, there was a day I was laying in bed. I didn't want to get up. I was man down. But it was just randomly. And I laid there and I said, you can't even get up to make a cup of coffee. How can you put a message out there to change people's lives? You need to get your ass up. You need to get up, make the coffee, because that's so little of your time. And you need to kind of like impact the rest of the world based on, even though you're not feeling good today, let people know that you're not feeling good today, but let them know that you still got through it. Because at the end of the day, it's a little 20-minute or 30-minute breakdown that you have compared to the rest of your day that you can have extremely good. So it was just that kind of comparison. So my message to the audience is, it doesn't have to be good and perfect every single time. It's okay to put your rawness out there, because it doesn't matter what people say. There's someone out there that might not feel good today that you can kind of impact and say, or that person can take the message and say, wow, I can feel better actually today because this person did this or that today. You never know. And then you realize what life is actually all about. And social media might be this little small part which took over our lives a bit a lot, but it's so small part that can play a big role on how you live your life at the end of the day. So if I'm in South Africa, I don't know what kind of people I might impact on that side, but it would be amazing to change people's lives on that side as well, and how they perceive a message or take up life in general. So I think making it now a very long conversation, but basically in short, the moment you accept that there's good and bad times and you can reflect on who you are going forward and changing lives based on just being you, you can get so far with yourself and other people. So social media shouldn't be the main thing to make you who you are today.
You mentioned fake stuff, people putting fake stuff. I call it the imitation of life through social media. A lot of that shit is not real. It's facade for, like you said, it's a lot of it's not real, fake or whatever. What kind of response have you been getting with your social media? Because there are people that know you, that you have shared your experiences with. So, what kind of feedback are you getting? Because a lot of times, if you're going through certain stuff and you're using social media as the filter to tell a story about your life, but people know that's not really how your life is. What kind of, how, part question to this, have you ever really, before you develop your growth, were you one of those individuals that was putting out fake information about who you were? Uh, and if so, how did you clean it up to develop who you, to let people know this is you now? And then the second part of the question is, how are people perceiving you now through social media?
So to start with, I would say when I started looking, people posted stuff like when they went through a bad time, get all these little relationship quotes and stuff that people put out there. And I was like, do people really put out there that they're not okay? And when I realized that, I accepted that it's okay to sometimes reach out and put something out there that makes you not feeling okay always. I've never really posted anything on a fake way, but I've sometimes not been very honest on what I really felt in certain situations to kind of like not put the spotlight 100% on what I was going through on that specific scenario. But what changed my life a lot doing these kind of social media things, and when people coming to me and saying, yes, wow, this was amazing, or like, are you okay? Maybe just listen to this Bible verse or whatever the case might be. Maybe this will work better for you. Is that I kind of put in a little bit of some jokes and funny ways of life. When I do something wrong, the video doesn't always look perfect. And then I laugh to myself, and I feel like I'm funny because I put a little sarcasm in my videos to make me feel better and let other people laugh. And that was the main thing that people took and said, wow, you're so inspiring. You just like yourself, and it's the authentic you. So that part for me was a life changer when people actually approached me, and I saw that people love being around people or talking to people that's just themselves and not needing to put something out there to kind of let other people, because if you put something out there so perfect, you kind of like not being realistic to other people's lives on how they're supposed to live it, because it's a very contradicting situation. Putting something out there perfect is going to put a facade there like, oh, she's so having a perfect life. And then on the other side, you like put something where you make mistakes and you post it, and like people are like, wow, I need to be more like this. So that's just kind of like what I've taken from this when people approached me. And I felt like, then you make mistakes, make the best of it. It's the best way of living life at the end of the day.
You mentioned, before we wrap up, you mentioned one of the key factors that you was really trying to overcome is the uh, fear of being alone. Explain that a little bit.
So when I was younger, I was a lot rejected in my life. I didn't get the love and attention that I needed to be one of the best people that I am today. And it took a lot for me to work through it. Literally, I'm not going to lie, literally 5 months back. I was so in a bad place. I wasn't okay with being alone. Literally, it was, I laid in my bed crying all the time, like, why am I not getting a different? I didn't want to be alone. I used to sleep over at my friend's place or come to my dad to feel less alone. I was scared to sleep. I got panic attacks at night. And then eventually, when I started growing closer to my faith, reading the Bible, asking God to change my situation, surrounding myself with different kind of people that was so motivating. Watching motivational videos, talking positive thoughts about myself. That was the main thing.
Mm.
And applying my life toward what I was thinking, because I was thinking, okay, if I think this, I need to live this and speak it, then it will change. So literally about like a month ago, I actually only started accepting and working through being alone, that it's actually okay. Because sometimes in order for you to grow, you have to do the uncomfortable part by being alone, because you can't grow necessarily around people. You need to sometimes grow on your own. You need to become a better person or better version of yourself for the next step of where your journey is supposed to go.
When you started to, when you went on the isolation journey of being alone, what what was resonating the most? What would you seeing that
It
was
would
resonating?
it would be that I had to kind of like accept who I was and who I was becoming. I think that was the big part that I was connecting with the most, is connecting with myself. Because sometimes you lose yourself in a way that you never find yourself again. That's what people always say, like, I feel lost. I don't know where to go, kind of setup. But I was like, no, you're 24 years old. You can't think like this. So the part for me was to reconnect with myself and kind of like do a detox and reset everything of my mind and everything that I had that was reflecting on who I was and who I was becoming.
Such a beautiful, beautiful journey. What's next for you? I mean, you're doing so much, and you to look at and follow you on the social media platform, you wouldn't even have an indication that you've gone through so much at such a young age. What's next for you?
Well, the nice part is you don't have to know what's next. I think anything that's next is going to be exciting, good or bad, because am 24 and I've never regretted anything in my life. And I don't think many people can say that. So the next stage, whatever comes, I'm happy to take it on with both hands because I'm excited. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's a tough challenge, I'll take it because I know it will put me on a stronger level. Because if you don't feel comfortable with it, you're never going to grow. It needs to be uncomfortable for you to come to the next level. So anything next, I'm happy.
What should the viewers get from your story? Like, you're 20, 25, your birthday's getting ready to happen. So I'm telling you ahead of time, happy 26, ahead of time. What should the viewers really get from this message, and about what age impact are you trying to deliver your message to? What age genre?
Well, any age, because I feel that everybody has a different kind of journey. Some very easy, some very deep. And the message I would like everybody to have is just really be happy with yourself. Start there because it overflows with everybody around you. And don't worry about what the rest of the world's caring or doing or having because it doesn't matter. I mean, life is very short. And the moment you appreciate time, I think that's the most biggest point of this whole conversation. The moment when you take time in consideration that what you have, like you have 24 hours, you might not even see tomorrow. So make the time that you have the best and be okay with where you are and who you are. Don't want to start changing your life on how you think it's supposed to be. Just take it as it is because you might be surprised on where you can end up at the end of the day.
How can the viewers reach out to you and support you and follow your beautiful journey, Dominique?
Basically on any platform, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I think Instagram is my main source. So if they want to message me, have a chat, even chat with us again or whatever, it would be perfectly fine. I'm happy to always like interact with people, chat with them, just see how I could make their lives a bit better than where they currently are, even if it's just listening, what they're going through. If I don't have say, an answer. Sometimes you just need to listen. Sometimes it's not always necessary to have an answer, or yeah, it's better just to listen and be there for each other. It doesn't matter if you're a stranger. I mean, I know there's a lot that can happen, but for me, it's just like we're supposed to. I'm just going to make it short for this part, but the crazy part is we all live like completely on different levels of life. Like I would, I wouldn't have met you on social media if you didn't make contact with me, but like you would walk in the street, you're not going to go to that person and greet the person necessarily because that's not in your nature. Like for me, if I see someone, I'm like, hello. So for me, it's like I greet everybody. It doesn't matter if you know the person or not. So that's the main thing for me. Like people just interact. You might not know if you make a person's life different or change the way of living. So they can reach out to me on any kind of platform that I have.
What's your names on your platform? Because we didn't say that. What's your name on your platform? The
It's
one that you
actually Afrikaans. So my Facebook is Dominique van Vuuren. It's basically my name and my surname. My TikTok and my Instagram is literally like in Afrikaans, it's Dagdroomkind. So it's daydream child in English if you had to like change it to English, but in Afrikaans it's Dagdroomkind. So it has a personal meaning, but that's the best way to get it. Yeah.
Dominic, thank you so much for taking time out to come on the show. I wish you the best. Like I said earlier, happy early birthday. Uh, Stay safe. That's the main thing, and keep delivering your words of inspiration and the powerful person that you are. I know what your last name means now, so I'm gonna really practice that and say it in the Africano way. But in the meantime, guys, make sure you support, like, click a button. All it takes is one click to change the life of yourself and somebody else. This has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show.